Let's do a contemplative Q&A. A good-hearted fellow on Facebook is curious about the intersectionality between Hinduism, Mahayana Buddhism, the Nilakanta Dharani, as well as the Shurangama mantra. For within Hindu deities known as Narayana, Indra, and Rudra are mentioned. And the person who asked me this question, you know who you are. That's a very good question. And the answer I have is going to be spectacularly disappointing. Mahayana Buddhism is what's considered the second school of Buddhism that's existing now. Right now we have Theravada Buddhism, which purports to be based upon the oldest set of so-called scripture. And you have Mahayana Buddhism, which comes from a later period in Buddhist development. And then, of course, you have Tantrayana, also known as Mantrayana Buddhism, also known as Vajrayana Buddhism, popular in Tibet. And that comes from a still later place in Buddhism. Having given you a bit of context, we're going to deal with the middle one, that's Mahayana, which is named with the distinctly non-humble title of the Great Vehicle. The Mahayana is essentially cobbled together, in my arrogant opinion, from numerous sources, from Buddhist sources, from a fundamentalist view of Buddhist sources, from a fundamentalist view of Taoist sources, and from a fundamentalist view of Hindu sources. When we read the Hebrew Old Testament, there was a time in the Hebrew history books where the people of Israel were a theocracy, and they were led by the Shekinah glory, the pillar of God that came to rest within the holiest of holies of the Hebrew temple. And the high priest was able to ask questions and get answers binarily through jewels on his, what's it called? Robes. There came a point where the people of Israel communicated to God through the prophets and through the priests. We want to be like the other countries and have a king. And according to the scriptures, God didn't like that, but he acquiesced. Now, that is not uncommon. Anyone who's been a kid or is surrounded by kids knows the power of peer pressure. I want to do thus and such because Tommy's doing thus and such, and Tommy's cool. Therefore, if I do thus and such or possess thus and such, I too will be cool. So many Buddhists looked around at the Hindus and they wanted to outdo the Hindus, a goal that Buddha never embraced. Buddha lived in a culture where there was already a religion. He did not seek to replace that religion. He was just a meditation teacher, teaching folks how to meditate. He was not trying to reinvent the wheel. That was not an issue to him. Ritual is actually denigrated in the Dhammapada, wherein we're told that, and I paraphrase, a moment spent in mindfulness is superior to a lifetime spent tending a sacred flame. So even though the founder of Buddhism was concerned about meditation or philosophy and not ritual and religion, the people who came after him thought they knew better. What could possibly go wrong with that? So from that momentum, it is not surprising that many people penned sutras, claiming them to be holy and from divine inspiration that were actually Buddhist versions of the Hindu epics. That would explain the great difference between many of the style found in many of the Mahayana sutras versus the Theravada sutras. But wait, there's more. Because the pettiness is not limited to mere imitation. No, no, no. Pettiness. Once it imitates its object, it then seeks to compete with its object through the lowbrow strategy of mockery and denigration. So it's not surprising that in many let's try that again. In many Mahayana Buddhist texts, there are less than flattering, if not downright insulting references to various Hindu deities. Personally, many years ago in my Buddhist study, when I began working with translations of the Maha Karunikaya Dharani, also known as the Dharani of Great Compassion, when I saw what it meant translated, I was horrified. Now, here's the irony. I'm not here to say mantras or dharanis don't have an energetic counterpoint. What I'm saying is because something is energetic does not necessarily mean A, it's beneficial, or B, it's in harmony with the teachings attributed to Buddha or Lao Tzu. If we value the message behind their writings, if we've read them at all, then it's important that the techniques that we employ are in harmony with the writings of Buddha and the writings of Lao Tzu. In a wonderful Shastra that comes to us from Tibet through the non-sectarian tradition, we're told that spells and rituals are a waste of time. They are a distraction from that which is most important. So, speaking from the perspective of greater luminaries than myself, the key is not in finding the right dharani or the right mantra or the right ritual. The key is in our practice of mindfulness, insight, and compassion in a way that strengthens our vulnerability and our acquiescence, that we may master centered spontaneity. My name is Lama Jigme Gyatso, and this is the Buddha Joy Meditation School.